Welcome everybody, Russell J.S. here to make a real fun video of old school proportions. You remember when I made that video back in Labor Day toward the tail end of summer? You know, summer vacation with an 80s mindset? Well, I went back to it and I thought to myself I wasn't really happy with the way it turned out. I mean, if you go back to that video, look at the shirt that I had on and the ball hat. Just like Marty McFly, I was a bit of a slacker. But you know what? I'm going ahead and I'm making a trilogy of videos. This is going to be part one of Retro Vacation 1970s Mindset. How's it going, old schoolers? You're kicking it old school with Russell J.S. And I am your host, Russell J.S. Now, there was a generational gap, back in the 70s. The baby boomers, which went from 1938 to 1960, 1965. And then there was a kind of a gap. No, I take that back. 1938 to maybe say 1957, and then between that time and 1964 was a huge generational gap. By 1965 you had what was called the Generation X, which went from 1965 to, I want to say, 1983. And then there was another generation. There was a generation that came right after it called the Millennials. We'll get to that some other time. But you see, back in the 70s, I gotta say something because I'm a 70s baby. I'm an 80s kid, and I'm a 90s teenager. And yet, with this being the 70s, look, I'm wearing proper hat right here, and I got a proper t-shirt on for the occasion. Besides Kiss, punk rock, disco, what else was very popular in the 70s? Trans Ams and Star Wars. But what I want to do in this video is, to have that kind of mindset. What I would do, like say I was either a kid or a teenager in the late 1970s, and I was handed, kind of like entertainment stuff, recreational electronic entertainment, for a plane trip. Like if I was going on vacation and I wanted to reminisce of those embarrassing Griswold style forced family fun vacations, whether you went to any of the Six Flags parks, what are now Six Flags parks, like Magic Mountain and Great Adventure in New Jersey, Disneyland, Universal Studios Hollywood, Universal Studios Florida, which would come out in the 90s, of course, but Walt Disney World, SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, all the other fun stuff across the country. If I was, let's say, imagine if you could go back in that time and you could have the technology of of things that came from the decades after, that were retrified entertainment. I want to show you what I would pack in my backpack. You're going to have to, and some of this stuff you're going to have to go on Amazon to find. You'll have to look on eBay, a lot of the online stuff. But without further ado, let's check all this bad Oscar stuff out, shall we? We're going back to the late 70s, okay? Right here, movies and music had always been a passion of mine since I was a kid. And, for 70s, I went ahead and grabbed a bunch of CDs, and you'll have to look for some of the CDs because CDs are hard to come by at Walmart these days. But what I got here, since I'm a rocker, I went ahead and I grabbed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of some of my favorite rock music of the 70s. Now I'm going to show you what I would bring. The first one right here even though it's a movie from 1993, the soundtrack to the movie Dazed and Confused, which took place at the last day of school in 1976, just when the bicentennial was coming around. Now let's go ahead and go into the history of what was going on around the dawn of the 70s toward the end. In the beginning of the 70s began with President Nixon in the White House. The Beatles broke up. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison had all died. And, a whole new genre of music was coming around called heavy metal. And you also had a little dance thing from Europe called disco. And punk rock, where punk rock pretty much was saving rock and roll. And, you had great shows of the 70s like, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, Starsky and Hutch, Saturday Night Live, Wonder Woman, The Incredible Hulk. And really great, the late 70s would create the summer blockbuster of movies, in my opinion. But what I'll show you what I'd bring. As far as music goes, I would bring the soundtrack to Dazed and Confused, which has hit songs by, classic rock artists as Alice Cooper and Foghat and Kiss and Lynyrd Skynyrd. I'd also bring Aerosmith's Greatest Hits, which was their first best of compilation. The authorized greatest hits of Cheap Trick. They became big in the 70s, and they still continued on in the 1980s and the 90s, but still they are a big-time 70s band. What we got here is the best of Alice Cooper, Macabre, and I think it's called Mascara and Monsters, and some great classic hard rock and roll. Here we go with the best of Grand Funk Railroad. This is all great music. I know a lot of you are going to have your standards if you were to do this. Some of you, when you were kids, I think the only rock and roll you really listened to was Kiss and the upcoming Van Halen, which their debut album would drop in the spring of 1978. And let's see, even more Dazed and Confused for the movie's Dazed and Confused, which has songs by, Edgar Winter Group and, again, Alice Cooper, Steve Miller Band, War, and Peter Frampton. And if you want a little comedy, Cheech and Chong's Greatest Hit. Yes, Cheech and Chong were real big in the 70s. A lot of you that are probably catching this video, you're probably, if you were teenagers, you were sneaking this along with George Carlin and Richard Pryor. And, you were probably listening to Alice Cooper and all that. But some of you, you made sure that your parents didn't know you were watching Saturday Night Live or listening to certain stuff. Also, Neil Young's Greatest Hits, which, Neil Young, he made a name for himself, when he was with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and he, went out on his own during the 70s and 80s and 90s, but a good lot of his hits came out of the 70s. So, I'm definitely going to have this as a companion if I wanted to have a 70s mindset. Early days, the very best of Led Zeppelin. How can you have any kind of 70s rock without Zeppelin? Come on. Yeah. Some of you who were teenagers in the late 70s, you had Zeppelin in your record collection. This is probably stuff your mom and dad didn't approve of. Black Sabbath Greatest Hits from 1970 to 1978. Again, this is probably stuff your mom and dad were like, oh, devil music, and getting more alleged devil music. The best of Blue Oyster Cult. And what I like about this compilation is it dates itself going from the beginning till the album that had Burning for You. but it has pretty much all their main hits from their 1970s catalog. And of course, if you're traveling on an airplane, I've overcome the fear. It's like you got to get over it because odds are it's not going to happen. If you want to, while you're on an airplane, want to listen to some Leonard Skinner, all-time greatest hits. If you all know, Leonard Skinner, half the band died in a plane crash back in 1977. I was kind of eerie for many years of listening to Leonard Skinner on an airplane. Same thing with, Stevie Ray Vaughan or Buddy Holly or, stuff like that, like artists that were killed in plane crashes. But I got over it. And of course, you wanted the best, you got the best. The hottest band in the world, Kiss, double platinum. Yeah, I'm sure your mothers didn't like this. Kiss meant Knights in Satan's Service, but this is a good companion album to have when you're traveling. Of course, Ted Nugent, the very best of Ted Nugent. Great old-fashioned American classic hard rock. Styx. I would definitely go ahead and, if I was in a 70s mindset, I'd listen to Styx. And of course, last but not least, Ultimate Santana. Again, Santana made it big in the late 1960s, played Woodstock, but became iconic by the 1970s. Now, this one will have the more modern songs like From Supernatural, with Rob Thomas, but we could always go ahead and just listen to stuff like Black Magic Woman and Oye Como Va and, all the old stuff. Now, that's the music I would bring if I was going to be in a 70s mindset. And then movies. Well, here's the thing. Also, handheld games. Lately, there's been a, market with retro handheld video games. But I went ahead and handpicked from my collection of what I would have for games. Like starting off with, and I did my research of when these games came out. So, we could still have it as 70s. Starting off, and I'm going to have two versions. I have this LCD handheld from Basic Fun, of Space Invaders. I mean, it kind of looks retrofied for 1970s. A lot of these do. But I'm gonna bring this with me. And of course, I got the My Arcade handheld version that I could have in my pocket. From the 1980s, again, this was a big pop culture thing in the 70s, but I got a Tiger LCD handheld electronic pinball. This kind of has a little 70s vibe to it as well, and pinball was a big deal in the 1970s, has been for years. And I also got this LCD electronic Star Wars themed pinball game from MGA, Gaming. And what's really cool is it does have, this came out in 1991, but it does resemble something you would see in the 1970s. I mean, look, they got the classic image from A New Hope, and, over on here, they got images from scenes of Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back, but still, it does have that kind of vibe. It came from 1978. And, of course, my Basic Fun Asteroids, because see, Asteroids and Space Invaders came out in 1978, and they became instant arcade classics. Also, I have a My Arcade handheld version. There's 3 games on here. We've got Galaxian, Galaga, and Exvius. But for the 70s, because it came out in 1979, we're mainly going to play Galaxian, because that's a 1979 game. And of course, some of you who were young kids between the ages of 10 to 13 in the late 1970s, a Basic Fun version of Mattel Electronic Baseball. I know a lot of you had this. And, this will definitely have that 70s vibe while you're traveling to your vacation destination. And of course, last but not least, I got this retro style regular pinball game like you would see at a convenience store, which looks very 1970s. I mean, this would be fun to take on the plane as well. Now we're going to move to movies. See, with this being the 70s, I went ahead. I've got all kinds of movies like from the 60s, 70s, and 90s in my DVD collection. And, for the 1970s, I want to make sure I picked good ones that would be themed for vacation. I picked a couple comedy ones, from TV show, because I'm a huge fan of these guys. The first one that I'm going to show you is from Saturday Night Live. Classics, the best of Dan Aykroyd. I'm a huge Dan Aykroyd fan. A lot of people know that. And the best of John Belushi. And I'm a John Belushi fan. I'm a fanatic. And another one I'm also big into. Now here's a movie I'm also a big fan of his. And I know this would be a movie that your parents wouldn't approve of despite the fact it had a PG rating. Meatballs, Bill Murray's starring debut from 1979, Meatballs. And he would move on to other classics like Where the Buffalo Roam and Caddyshack, Stripes, The Razor's Edge, Tootsie, and Ghostbusters. And of course, a movie that a lot of you, your parents, definitely wouldn't approve of you watching was Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. See, I'm trying to pick all the summer themed movies for the time. And of course, yeah, how can you have summer? If you're going to watch movies on a summer vacation, how can you do it without Jaws? That is the ultimate summer movie right there, taking place in the summer. And some high-octane fun with Smokey and the Bandit. This is the Smokey and the Bandit trilogy, but for right now, for 1970s, we just watched the first one. Same thing with another classic trilogy that got its start in the 70s. The Star Wars trilogy. All we have to do is watch A New Hope. Now, what I'm doing basically, this would be stuff to occupy you during your trip, on your way to your destination for vacation. So, just kind of put your mind at ease, like, remember those times, you look back as an adult and you're like, it wasn't so bad after all. I was just a kid. Another one we got, more Led Zeppelin. The concert movie, The Song Remains the Same. Got Led Zeppelin right there in a movie, almost like the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night. And of course, one that is so bad that it's good, and I was able to snag this on Blu-ray through eBay. And these guys, two of the main guys in the band, don't like this movie at all, but the original Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park. I mean, a lot of you will, who are kids or teenagers in the 70s will remember sitting down to watch this. And of course, a period film. I got two period films right there that take place in the 70s. The Lords of Dogtown, if you've never heard of the Z-Boys, they were the pioneers in extreme skateboarding, starring Heath Ledger and Jay Adams. Picked this movie up. It's a classic. It's really good. It's based on a true story, too. And of course, the classic the 1993 classic 70s stoner romp, Dazed and Confused, which helped start up the careers of such talent as Matthew McConaughey, Ben Affleck, and Joey Lauren Adams. And of course, last but not least, on Blu-ray, Superman the movie. I mean, we all thrilled to Superman at that time in 78. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, JS, that's all great and all, but how are we going to watch and listen to all this, all the DVDs and CDs? You know what? Like I said, you're going to have to go to Amazon for if you've already gotten rid of your CD collection for an MP3 player or your DVD collection for streaming. go on to Amazon and eBay and buy whatever your favorite movies or music from the 70s. Like, if you have to get in compilations, get compilations. And for $20 on eBay, I found a brand new portable disc player for $20. And also, I've got my period portable Blu-ray and DVD player, which, if you look at this thing, it's kind of like the size of a small laptop. And it comes with all the attachments you need to plug into a wall, to charge it, and, plug it into your car. It's got a built-in battery, rechargeable battery. And it comes with all the attachments. And what's great, when you're at the hotel, say you want to watch a movie in your downtime, like when you're getting ready for bed at the hotel, this portable Blu-ray player could plug right into the TV right here. And you could go ahead and watch the movie at the hotel while you eat dinner, while you're getting ready for bed. And all of it, you get yourself a backpack that has, multiple pockets and compartments to put this stuff. Like, I'd go ahead and take the Blu-ray player, and I put it right in that compartment there, which I'm going to get some kind of protective case. Now, as far as the music goes, how are we going to, not have a full backpack? All the CDs I showed you, yep, I still have this. I've had this for 30 years, my CD wallet. And see, there's where all that music is, right in here. And that would go right here with the portable Blu-ray player. And then I go ahead and take the portable CD player, and I'd put it in this compartment right here. It'll be safe in there. And then the movies, well, I could go ahead and I'll take some, put them in this. I got all these compartments in a backpack. I could take some and put them in this compartment right here. And then I have another compartment as well. Because you want to make room for everything that you're bringing. So, see, go ahead and put some in here. And then you just zipper it up. And then you put some more in here. I hope I don't overload. And then put 3 in there. And of course you also may want to take literature with you, maybe a good book. As you can see, I've got Peter Benkley's The Island and Belushi, A Biography. Now, here we go. Oh. God, I got a lot in my backpack here. Because there's things you do want to make room for as well. So now you got your books and your movies and your music. And then when it comes to the handhelds, you could put some in here as well. Now, one of the things I recommend is, you not really take everything all out. Like when you're sitting at the airplane waiting to be boarded. You want to go ahead and you want to make some room. And you don't want to take everything out. And you always have to remember. That. Oh yeah, and here's the attachments for the Blu-ray. Oh. I also carry with me what people call today a fanny pack. Now, the reason I'm going to carry that with me is if you're going to wear jewelry, you're going to wear a wristwatch while you're where you're traveling, well, what you want to do is, put your wristwatch and your jewelry, like necklaces, bracelets, and rings and whatnot in the hip sack or fanny pack, whatever have you. Also, you could put your wallet and you could put a handheld game or two in there. See? So that way, while you're waiting, you could play a handheld game or two, and you could even stick your phone in there. Look, you're going in my fanny pack. You're going in my fanny pack. Because what's going to happen is when you're checking out, you'll be able, the least you'll have to do is take the belt off your pants. And then you could just put your backpack and your fanny pack in there. And also, I recommend, as always, don't wear laced, if you're going to wear sneakers, don't wear laced ones. These are really comfortable. Buy yourself a pair of these Skechers. You just slip them on and slip them off. Or, and don't worry, they're not lame. Wear Crocs if you want to, with socks. And you're good to go. Well, that was the 70s for you. Just remember, if you're new to the channel, hit a like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications and leave comments in the box down below. I hope you enjoyed my take on, traveling on vacation with a 70s mindset. Look forward to seeing part 2 with the 1980s. This is your old pal, Russell J.S. I want to wish you all Godspeed. And may the force, because remember, summer is coming up. Sure, it's April, but summertime is coming up. And, if you're going to go on a vacation, like you used to when you were a kid, go on eBay and go on Amazon to look for all this stuff and, have a ball. This is your old pal, Russell J.S., wanting to wish you all Godspeed. Keep it real. Keep it fresh, keep it chill. Jive turkey, can you dig it? Just like they say in the 70s, right on. Have a nice day. May the force be with you, always. And keep it real. Play some Atari, play some Space Invaders, play some Pong, play some Nintendo, play everything. Listen to whatever music is your desire and movies. It's your old pal, Russell J.S. Wanted to tell you right on. Have a nice day. Godspeed. May the force be with you always.